Live from Waterford and Dungarvan, this is Waterford at 1 News.
Good afternoon, I'm Sinead Aherne. Today's top stories. Donald Tusk has rejected Boris Johnson's demands for major changes to the backstop. Discussions about who will pay to move Waterford train station are ongoing. Renters in Waterford City are paying 67% more than mortgage holders. And in sport, Waterford FC were no match for Shamrock Rovers at the RSC last night. The European Council President says a letter he received from Boris Johnson offers no realistic alternatives to the backstop. Donald Tusk has rejected the British Prime Minister's demands for major changes to the measure, as Sean O'Regan reports.
Just before 11:20 this morning, Donald Tusk tweeted this: "The backstop is an insurance to avoid a hard border on the island of Ireland unless and until an alternative is found. Those against the backstop and not proposing realistic alternatives, in fact, support re-establishing a border, even if they do not admit it." In no uncertain terms, Mr Tusk has told Boris Johnson that the EU is not returning when it comes to the backstop. In his letter yesterday, Mr Johnson said he's willing to explore creative solutions as an alternative, and that's something the Conservative Party Chairman James Cleverly agrees with.
The backstop element of the withdrawal agreement is the problematic bit, and if we can overcome that, then we can do what I think we all want to do, which is leave the European Union with a deal.
But Natasha Berthaud, spokesperson for the EU Commission, says the letter doesn't provide a legal operational solution to prevent a hard border.
And in fact, it recognises that there is no guarantee that such arrangements will be in place by the end of the transitional period. Otherwise, and of course, and as we stated on many occasions, we do stand ready to work constructively with the UK and within our mandate.
With 72 days until the October 31st deadline and the EU not budging on the backstop, it looks as if Boris and co will need to find the alternatives they say can be part of the backstop solution sooner rather than later.
Progress on the infrastructural development of the North Quays hinges on Aherne moving the train station to the north side of the quays. Currently, the rail company is in discussions with the government to see who will pay for the relocation of the train station. Minister for Local Government John Paul Phelan says the next tranche of funding for the government is expected in October of this year.
The big issue now is to try and ensure that Aherne move the station into that central position on the North Quays. They've given their word that that is going to happen. In terms of the next round of capital call for the National Planning Framework, the investment plan, will be in, I think, October of this year. So Waterford, having got whatever it was, 6 million, I think last time, needs to get something similar at least again. By giving the first tranche and the biggest amount of money that any place got in the country, that was an indication that the government is behind the scheme and wants it to happen.
He says people don't really mind who pays as long as it's moved.
I suppose there's a discussion on, at the moment between different agencies and departments. I mean, I don't think anybody really matters or cares too much who pays for it as long as it's moved. Like, people will know crossing the bridge. It's a lottery trying to get out of it. I mean, it was grand for years, but it's just too busy a spot now. And this provides the perfect opportunity to move it into a right central location with the footbridge and cycle bridge going right across to the clock tower from it. Those discussions are happening as to who will be the people who will be funding it.
Waterford experienced one of the biggest increases in rent over the past year. The average rent in Waterford City is now a record €1,013 a month. According to the latest daft.ie report, the average mortgage in Waterford City is only €592, meaning renters are paying an additional 67%. Rents locally are also 30% higher than the peak of the Celtic Tiger. Author of the report, Ronan Lyons, says rent caps aren't enforceable between tenancies.
The only way of knowing that would be if there's a public register of rents. So you know that 24 Main Street had a rent of €1,000 a year ago, then you could hold them to that and say, look, I know it was €1,000. But of course, there's no public register of rents. They could do it, but they've chosen not to do it. So it makes enforcing the rent caps very difficult.
2 men in their 40s have been arrested in Dublin in connection with the attempted murder of a police officer in Belfast earlier this year. The men are being questioned at a Garda station in the city after a bomb was found under the officer's car in East Belfast in June. The PSNI say today's arrest should send a clear message to those involved in terrorist activity that the border does not provide an escape route, as Sinead Spain reports.
On June 1st last, an improvised explosive device was found under a police officer's car at Shandon Park Golf Club in Belfast. At least 70 people were evacuated from the club, which was hosting a tournament at the time. The head of the PSNI Terrorism Unit, Detective Superintendent Sean Wright, says today's arrests in Dublin show how the two police forces on both sides of the border work collaboratively on a daily basis to ensure there's no hiding place for criminals or terrorists. He described the car bomb as a reckless attack on a public servant. Detective Superintendent Wright says anyone with information about the attempted murder or anyone who knows someone that's a member of a dissident organisation should contact police.
Gardaí in County Waterford are appealing for witnesses to a crash last night. The two-car collision happened on the main Dungarvan to Ballymacarbery Road near Ballinamult at around 9:40pm. The passenger of one of the cars was taken to hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. Anyone who witnessed the crash or who may have dashcam footage is asked to contact Dungarvan Garda Station on 058 48600. The union representing Dublin-based Ryanair pilots has denied suggestions its ballot for strike action was unlawful. The Irish Airline Pilots Association, which is part of Forza, is fighting efforts by the airline to get a High Court order aimed at averting a walkout by 180 pilots on Thursday and Friday. Ryanair claims the union balloted its members for industrial action before mediation talks had finished. But Forza says any allegations its process didn't comply with the law are outrageous, false and misleading. A decision on whether Ryanair's application for an injunction will be granted isn't expected until later today or tomorrow. The number of students attending part-time courses at Waterford Institute of Technology has increased by 28%. The Institute's hosting an open evening this week for people interested in changing their careers or upskilling. Among the courses on offer are the free or heavily subsidised Springboard, as well as part-time and postgrads. The event at the main campus takes place tomorrow evening from 5 to 7pm. Neil Quinlan's head of the Department of Lifelong Learning at WIT.
The Springboard courses, as probably a lot of people know from the recession times, they started off, but now they're open to employed people. They're in all kinds of areas which are really relevant for getting a job or making progress in your current job. The courses are funded by the government from the National Training Fund based on areas which employers are looking for people in. So data analytics, digital marketing, computer programming, automation, engineering, all of these different types of areas which society needs more skills in.
He says tomorrow's event's a good opportunity to meet the lecturers.
There's different directions you can go with the likes of conversion courses. So, and nobody wants to be kind of wasting their time, wasting their efforts and whatever. So it's crucial to try and find the right course for you, the right direction for you. The best way to kind of tease that out is to meet the lecturers in the different academic areas and kind of, talk it through with them and to help you come to this decision around what's the best course for you.
An interactive website depicting the Irish language writers of the day shall be launched this evening. A large number of Irish language writers, poets, authors and storytellers are from the area. The website will be launched in Closhinarinna at 8. Maura Shobranach is the Irish officer with Waterford City and County Council.
We're launching a project called Dáv Yéiseach Scríonóirí na Néise, which is the Irish writers of the Déise, which is an online searchable story map and wall chart on all the Irish language writers, the numerous Irish language writers that are associated with Waterford City and County over the last 400 years.
She says it's the culmination of many years' work.
And a project started by Nicholas McCrath, where he gathered information on all these writers and put them on a map, and we're delighted now to be able to launch an interactive website that can be looked at all over the world, where people can get information on all the wonderful talent that came from this area.
WLR Sport.
Starting with soccer, where the Waterford FC manager says you can see the gap between the top two teams in the league and everyone else. The Blues were beaten 5-1 by Shamrock Rovers at the RSC in the Premier Division last night. Leaders Dundalk beat Bohemians 6-1 at Oriel Park to reach the EA Sports Cup final also last night. Waterford FC manager is Alan Reynolds.
I see Dundalk beat Bohs 6-1 tonight, I think it was. The gap between those two and the rest of us is massive, and it's her season isn't going to be defined against Shamrock Rovers, so I'm glad to have Sam get minutes in, Walter get more minutes, and have to take the positives out of it. But I know they're deflated down. There's tough run on at the minute, but as I said, they have achieved what we're made of now, and try and give the fans something to shout about.
There's been widespread condemnation of racial abuse online directed towards Manchester United star Paul Pogba. The French World Cup winner missed a penalty in United's 1-1 draw with Wolves at Molineux last night. The 26-year-old's the third player in a week to be racially abused on social media following a penalty miss. United say they're working to identify those responsible. In Gaelic games, 3 times All-Ireland winner Stephen O'Neill's left Mickey Hart's Tyrone management team. The Clonagale man was appointed forwards coach at the start of the 2018 campaign, but he will not be returning in the role next season. O'Neill becomes the second member of the management team to depart after Peter Donnelly took up a strength and conditioning role with Ulster Rugby. While in hockey, Ireland take on Germany in the final Pool B game at the Men's European Hockey Championship in Belgium this afternoon. Alexander Cox's side have drawn 1 and lost 1 game so far. Tip-off is at 2:45. That's the latest on WLR. Our next bulletin.